Good evening, 晚上好. So this is me again, and it's an evening in Taipei, Zhongxiao Fuxing Station area, and I wanted to maybe talk a little bit about the present situation along the Thai-Cambodian border. I haven't been to that part of Thailand, but I do spend a chunk of my time in northern Thailand, so I actually do follow the Thai news, and I have some friends in Thailand. I think it's fair to say I am somewhat biased towards Thailand, positively, but it's for good reasons. And at any rate, bias or not, this is what I think about the situation. Kind of synthesis and analysis of the situation. So, but first I need to get this bicycle thing because I'm heading out. So I have a friend who used to work in Cambodia on a bunch of projects, and when this thing first flared up, he said, "Oh, they do it all the time. Like it happens every once in a while." So I looked up the history of the conflict, and indeed, similar things happened like in 2006 and 2011, I think, 10 and 11, albeit on a much smaller scale, nothing like this time. There was a little bit of a small arms fire exchange, a few servicemen got injured or even killed, but there was basically no impact on the civilian populations, communities around there. So it is quite different this time. And the original conflict goes back to the post-colonial dispute that wasn't properly settled back in the 60s by the International Court of Justice ruling, ICJ, which did rule in favor of Cambodia for the temples in question, but not the surrounding territories. So those remained still disputed, and that's what created, if not the root cause, but at the very least the pretext for the current clashes. If you followed Thailand news over the past year or so, you would remember that about a year ago, the relatively new incoming government administration of Thailand, by extension of our father, Thaksin, started cracking down seriously on the cross-border scam centers, which are located all across the Thai borders with the surrounding countries. And this thing culminated about 6 months ago in a number of these centers closed. The biggest one being in Miyawadi, which is just across the border from Mesot in the Tak province. They also shut down, at least temporarily, some of the smaller centers along the northern border with Myanmar again and with Laos, and somewhat impacted the operations in Pechalek as well. At least some of the power supply and internet was cut off. That caused most of the scam operations migrate towards Cambodia, where they also existed before. But it kind of resulted in the higher concentration over there. I would imagine in turn the Thai began to pursue them there as well, even though the Chinawat clan and the Hun Sen family of Cambodia used to have a pretty cozy relationship. Around the same time, the Patong Tan administration began to float once again the long-standing and rather controversial issue of the so-called entertainment centers, i.e. casinos, which are a big point of contention within Thailand. A lot of people don't like the idea, both the liberals and conservatives, but a lot on the per Thai side, the kind of business elites, I think there's money to be made in it. Eventually that idea, or for now that idea, has been kind of killed in the Senate, but it might make another comeback again. Just like with the scam centers, there's a big competitor in the form of Cambodia. So these two, the online scams, cross-border online scams, and illegal gambling, are two of the big industries in Cambodia. And given it's a somewhat of a military dictatorship, everything is controlled by the dictator's family, Hun Sen's family. So they have a direct incentive to influence the Thai administration not to go ahead with those. I guess they run out of all the other options and thought no better than use the good old border dispute thing, which might have worked in the past. Because, let's say, the 2006 clashes happened after Thaksin got ousted, and while Thaksin was in charge, everything was more or less smooth, in part because of the business connections. Thaksin was running a large telecom investment in Cambodia. Aside from that, there's also the internal dynamic within Cambodia, in that Hun Sen is quite old. I think he's 72 or 73. So he would like to transfer all the authority to his son, Hun Manet. So this is a really delicate time for them, and they're not really that popular among the everyday Cambodians, from what I hear, at least. In part because even though the economy grew at a fairly rapid pace, those gains were not distributed very fairly. The family has been in power more or less around 40 years almost, more than 30 for sure. But the country is a lot less developed than the neighbors. I guess it's unfair to compare with Thailand, because Thailand was always richer than Cambodia, bigger and richer. But if you compare even with Vietnam, which had fairly similar starting base coming out of the war, Cambodia doesn't look very good. Vietnam, if you look at it, has advanced industries. They make their own cars, motorcycles, EVs. They do some fairly advanced software engineering, all kinds of goods, consumer goods. They can assemble iPhones, Android phones. They even started getting into microchip design. So it is a fairly advanced economy by now. Possibly will even rival China at some point. Look at Cambodia. They have what? Some temples, okay, dating back to the Angkor Empire. They have gambling, which is illegal, but if it's state-sponsored, then it's legal. And they have the cross-border online scam centers run by the Chinese mafia. That's pretty much it. The rest is subsistence agriculture and garments manufacturing. Very low value added and highly competitive industries. this is the backdrop against which they need to transfer power, and at the same time their revenues are being threatened by the crackdowns. So I imagine Hun Sen or Hun Manet or someone in their surrounding had this bright idea that we could start a little like regional border clash and kill two birds, essentially. We would, A, boost our popular support at home, kind of rally around the flag, and we will also persuade the Chinawat clan of Thailand to get out of our turf in the scams and casinos. And if we don't do that, okay, we will get them out of power. So the underlying logic is also quite simple. Thailand being kind of a relative democracy cannot afford having a prolonged military conflict because of its high dependence on tourism industry, and not only the investment and all. So about 20% of the GDP is in tourism, and Cambodia being a semi-military dictatorship, or at the very least quite authoritarian state, can handle or can tolerate a lot more economic damage in the short run. I guess that's their underlying logic, and the strategy seemed to work at first, at the initial salvos of the conflict. Prior to that, they managed to cause a political crisis within Thailand itself. So Paetong Tan got suspended. Phum Jai Thai party got out of the ruling coalition. So government was to this moment somewhat paralyzed. And even with the border clash, initially it seemed like Cambodians had an upper hand, at least propaganda-wise. Their digital operation was quite successful. Judging by the amount of trolls, bots, fake accounts that they unleash on every regional news outlet, pushing the pro-Cambodian narrative. Thai were kind of caught off guard, at least in the digital space. The military fared somewhat better. They were a little more prepared. What they didn't prepare for, likely, was that Cambodia would target civilian infrastructure, facilities, hospitals, gas stations, 7-Eleven even. On the second or third day of the border conflict, it became fairly apparent that Cambodia has nothing against the Thai military, at least in the conventional sense. The Thai F-16s and Griffins can operate with basic immunity in the Cambodian airspace. The Thai Navy, if the push came to shove, could probably blockade Cambodia unless the Chinese get involved. So it doesn't really look good for Cambodia in the long run. That's why the Monday negotiations were kind of agreed to a peace deal in KL, in Kuala Lumpur, which was violated almost immediately. So now both sides are blaming each other. I tend to buy more the Thai version because number one, it was more likely Cambodia that stirred up the pot to begin with. Thailand had nothing to gain from this. The tourism is already not doing so well. The political crisis doesn't actually make things a lot easier. I don't buy the theory that the Thai military are keen on another coup to take power in the country. I don't think they want that. For now, they just want to focus on the military affairs. The ceasefire has been violated multiple times already. We are in Tuesday today. There will be some external observers. Cambodia will probably play victim. They've already accused Thailand of using chemical weapons even, which is kind of outlandish. I think they will continue to do small harassing here and there, but basically they realized that the whole affair was somewhat miscalculated. Most importantly, I think the Cambodians have miscalculated the extent to which the Thai would respond, and how virtually all of the competing opposing forces within Thailand would rally around the nation, rally around the flag. So the first round kind of a wash. I think Cambodia has achieved some of its limited objectives, in some family at least. They have shored up support at home. They can probably manage their power transition. And more importantly, they created an external enemy. So now they can crack down even more on the dissenting voices at home. And kind of paint them as pro-Thai elements or something like that. So it doesn't look good for the average person there. Doesn't really look good for the tourism industry either. And I think most of the damage that's been done is to the reputation of Cambodia as a kind of trustworthy player in the region, in the ASEAN bloc even. Although ASEAN bloc is kind of a gathering of some really sly foxes. Anyways, what's going to happen is nobody's going to take them seriously anymore, the word. Thailand, I think, will rebound. It will take some time, but they will not trust Cambodia, at least with this government, anymore. And the other outcome of this will be that Cambodia will become even more dependent on China, on the Chinese aid. And it's not like China can afford a lot of external aid anymore. The party is over in a way. What else will come out of this? And another unintended but anticipated consequence would be that virtually all of the ASEAN countries, everyone in the region, will accelerate their rearmament programs. So yeah, the global defense industry will rejoice. Anyway, this is my random thoughts about this thing as an outsider who just follows news. I'm here for the gym. Bye now.